All right, back for another week on the DSP, and joined with me an artist that I've been playing for a few months now. She dropped her sophomore album in 2020, Chrysalis, and she has the Holy Holy Boys on there. The track is called Always. Tia Gostelow joins me from Brisbane, Australia. How you doing, Tia?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. You know, you've had to sit on your hands for a little while since dropping the album back in 2020. You know, we've had a lot of things happen between now and then. How are you doing? You know, how are you coming out the back end of COVID and lockdown and isolation?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at the moment. I had a pretty big break last year, as did most people, I'm sure. And I moved back to my parents' house in Mackay for a little bit, and recently just moved back to Brisbane maybe like a month ago. Which has been nice. It's been good to get back into it, starting to write again. Got some shows coming up, which is awesome. So yeah, things seem like they're starting to get back to a bit normal.
Do you kind of just continue writing as soon as you drop an album? Like, is there any time where you sit back and go, all right, I'm just going to kind of like listen to what I've produced and give myself a break, or are you just straight back into it?
Last year, I literally took like a year off songwriting. And I think that was just because like everyone was in like this weird phase. I just released my album. And I felt like I needed a bit of a break from music for a while, and it's definitely like just reset me completely. I feel so much more motivated and passionate about music. And since I moved back to Brisbane, I've just been writing. I've had lots of co-writes come up. I've been trying to get back into writing by myself. And I just feel like I'm much more excited about the whole music thing and more passionate. And I'm just really loving it at the moment.
Taking a year off is, you know, I feel like a big thing for a creative and especially a musician. Is it because, like, for you, is writing demanding? Is it demanding of your time and your space and your sense of who you are?
I think it has been in the past. For me, it kind of felt like it was a bit, for me, it just felt forced quite a lot. And I'd been so used to co-writing that when it came to me writing by myself, I really didn't even know where to start. But since I've had that break, it's like, I guess it just made me realize that music is what I want to be doing. And I'm so grateful that this is my job and like this is all I can do and all I have to do at the moment. Like I went and had another job while I was having that break off music, and it was really a good thing for me to just realize that I have it so good doing music and just being able to sit at home and write songs. And like I said before, it was definitely like this big like reset for me, and just I just want to completely dive into it and just write all the time, and just, I love what I do and I just really want to keep doing it. What
was the other job you picked up for a year?
I was cleaning at a coal port, so like where they put all like the coal onto the ships. So I was like doing just like regular cleaning, and then I started cleaning all the big machines. So it was like ridiculous hours. I was like constantly hosing down all these big machines, and like I'd be sitting there at like 2:00 in the morning being like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I need to start writing songs again.
Well, I'm glad you got back into writing songs. I feel like that definitely allows you to get out the gift that you've, you know, been given and the stories that you want to tell. You've had to sit on the album for about 5 months, you know, not really being able to tour it. But it's been an interesting time, I guess, because artists, especially like yourself dropping projects, have really got to sit back and just kind of listen and see what the world is doing when they're, you know, digesting your music. 5 months later for you, you're looking back on the Chrysalis album, your sophomore album. You know, how do you feel about the project? How do you feel about what you've seen, you know, over the last 5 months?
I absolutely love it. Like it was so weird. Like yesterday I was on a flight back to Brisbane from visiting my parents, and I was like, for some reason, going through like my voice memos on my phone, and like I discovered all the ones that were for the songs when I was writing Chrysalis, and it was so weird to hear them like in like their very first form and like all the melodies and stuff. And for me, like looking back on the album, I'm just so proud of it. And like when I was writing the album, I was definitely not in the best mental headspace, and I can see that looking back on it. But it's also like great to look back on it and reflect on like that point that I was in my life and how I've come out on the other side. And also those songs wouldn't have come about if I wasn't going through all that stuff at the time. And it's also great looking back at my first album, Thick Skin, and seeing how much of a change I've gone through as an artist and as a person. And I can definitely see Chrysalis as like this, almost like a journal, and also like the next stepping point into where I want to be in my career. And yeah, I love Chrysalis and all the songs on it. And playing them yesterday in rehearsals was amazing as well, because it's a whole different thing when you're hearing the songs through massive speakers and like you're getting like this really great vibe with your band. And yeah, it's just amazing to be able to play those songs live finally. And yeah, I can't wait to do that in front of a crowd.
Yeah, you mentioned your debut album Thick Skin, which was 2018. You're that much wiser, that much older, that much further in your career now, and you talked so much about tall poppy syndrome and being in high school with your first album. Now, kind of sitting on the back of this album, do you feel like you still get that, or is it kind of left behind?
I feel like I don't experience tall poppy syndrome as much anymore. And I don't know if that's, like, I know that it's still around. It's still such a prominent thing, especially here in Australia, in every industry. But I feel like it could have just been, I guess, me being young in high school, everybody's trying to figure out who they are, what they're doing with their lives, and also being in a really small regional town. It's very hard to, I guess, when you have like this path that you see yourself on, which is very different to what everyone else is doing in like this little town that you're in, it's hard to kind of imagine you succeeding in that. So I think moving to Brisbane was a huge thing for me, and also like it really opened my eyes to like a whole world of possibilities, and the people around me are so supportive. And like now when I go back to Mackay, like everyone is so supportive. I just think it was that kind of young kind of phase, trying to figure out who you are as a person. But I definitely still think it's around, unfortunately. But you kind of find yourself as you get older, and you surround yourself with people that are super supportive.
I guess as having a sophomore album, your second album, your debut album usually has this sense of excitement, and, you've never done this body of work. And then you see the success from that first album, and then you go, all right, I need to recreate or do another album. What was the pressure like for you going into putting out Chrysalis and writing it?
Yeah, there was obviously more pressure this time around. Like I really didn't think Thick Skin would, I guess, connect with as many people as it did, and I didn't think it would do as well as it did. Like I was only 18, 19 when that album came out, and those songs were written, some of them were written when I was like 15. So for me, like the success that had gained, I just wasn't really ready for it. And it just really shocked me. And so thinking about the songs I had to write for Chrysalis, it was very daunting. Like you could kind of have this thing in your head thinking, okay, this needs to be bigger and better than the last album. But I think I wrote from the heart, and I really just followed what I wanted to do as an artist and as a person, and I just went with it. And it feels like it's connected with people. And most of the people that have been with me since Thick Skin have kind of grown with me into this next album. And I just think it's like, yeah, finding yourself, getting older, you become more mature, you obviously gain more confidence. And the second time around going into Chrysalis, I definitely learnt from my mistakes in Thick Skin, and I was a lot more confident and wanted to be more involved in the recording process. And I just fell in love with the whole recording process all over again, and I'm super excited to go into album number 3.
When you talk about not being ready for the success that you saw from Thick Skin, and, I guess the attention that it gathered, what do you feel like you weren't ready for as an artist or a young woman? I really didn't expect that my music would reach as many people as it did. I guess for me, like a moment where I realized that like it connected with so many people was when I won the Album of the Year award at the Queensland Music Awards. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't even think I'd be nominated in that. Like I wasn't even worried about like even nominating to be in that category, but we did it out of a whim. And then I won the award, and they're like, you're also like the youngest person to ever win this award. So I'm like, what the hell? Like that is insane. Like it was just like such a pinch me moment. And Thick Skin will forever hold a great spot in my heart. Yeah, I like talking about those pinch me moments, because I know you asked Oscar from Holy Holy when you had to interview him, was there a moment in his career with his in Holy Holy that they really made that decision of like, oh, have we made it, or is this what I get to do for the rest of my career? Have you had a moment like that yet?
I feel like I've had a couple, which is super strange, but that winning that award was one of them. And also, like, I think I played this festival in Brisbane called Mountain Goat Valley Crawl. It's like this free festival that like so many bands play at, and last year I got to headline it, which was insane. And I was so nervous and worried that nobody was going to come. Like I was like so sick and anxious about it. And just before I got on stage, my mum like came up to me because one of my friends was trying to get into the venue, and the like line literally went around the block, and there were people like standing behind the stage that couldn't get in, like listening to it and like just cheering me on. And it was such like an amazing moment, and you just kind of like have to take a step back and just be like, oh my God, these people are here to watch me, and it was just such a great night. And for me, like having that in Brisbane as well was so cool. Like it's so close to home, and just to feel like you have that much support from the people around you is just incredible.
Why as an artist? Because, especially you've been, playing music since you were 7 years old. And I'm sure you've played in front of rooms of 2 or 3 people before, as most musicians have. Do they still, and even myself, I put on concerts and shows for artists, and I get nervous about how many people are going to be in the venue or in the show. Why do you think you still get nervous for those reasons?
I think it just shows you care, and no matter how many people are in the room, you still have to put on the best show you can. And I learnt that when I went on tour over in Europe. For me, that was also like a massive eye-opener. I was booked to play these like rooms for like 100 people, and there were shows where I went and there was like one person in the crowd. And that really, like, at first it really shocked me, because I went from playing like shows in Australia to like sold out like 400 capacity venues. And for me, that was a moment of taking a step back and being like, doesn't matter how many people are in the room, you just have to put on the best show you can. Like, I'm across the like other side of the world, and there's people here that know my music, even if it's just 2 people. So I think you just get nervous because you care, and you just have to put on the best show that you can, no matter who's in the room, how many people are in the room. They're just there for the same reason, and they're there to listen to your music.
You put the feature on Chrysalis' album with Holy Holy, which is the only feature on the album. Before we talk about the track specifically, why the one feature on the album?
I don't know. I've just always, like, even on Thick Skin, I've kind of always wanted just to have a song with somebody else on it. And always just kind of happened really naturally. And like getting Holy Holy on it, it was just a really natural thing. The song, I didn't write the song to start with. It was sent to me by one of my favorite bands in Australia called The Money War. And it was kind of sitting there for a little while. I knew I really liked the song, but I was super, I felt weird about releasing a song that I hadn't written. I felt like people would be able to tell, and like, I've never done that before. And like, what if people think like it's a cop out, or like I'm not being true to myself? But I just loved the song so much. And we went in and recorded it. And it wasn't until I went down to Melbourne to Oscar's studio and we were mixing it, where I was just like, why don't I just like ask Oscar if Holy Holy would like to be on it? And the worst you can say is no,
Yeah.
And it kind of just fell into place like that, which is awesome, because I'm such a big Holy Holy fan. So super grateful to have Tim and Oscar on the song as well.
What's it like being in the studio with them, and especially for yourself, knowing who Holy Holy are, and, wanting to work with them, and, having those, feelings about what they've produced. For you, what was the experience like?
It was obviously at first, like when I first met Oscar, I was like trying not to fangirl a little bit, but Oscar and I get along like a house on fire. Like, it was just such an incredible experience to spend like the week in the studio recording the album with him, and then also like flying down to Melbourne to like do the mixing process with him. Like, it was very much just like me and him together doing this project. And weirdly enough, like, we didn't record always like with Tim. Like, it was kind of like really separated. I don't think I've never sung the song with Tim before because like Tim was living down in Tasmania, Oscar was in Melbourne, and I was in Brisbane. So we kind of just recorded things where we could and just kind of talked between us three over email and stuff like that. So I think it's incredible how the song came together so well without all of us being in a room together. But we still haven't even been able to sing always together. Like I haven't been on stage with them to sing that, which is weird, but hopefully the time will come. Because yeah, it's one of my favorite songs off the record.
I've chatted with the Holy Holy Boys a couple of times, and then another artist that kind of had his finger in Chrysalis as well is Garb Strum, so AKA Japanese Wallpaper. He's such a musical genius and just is inspiring to see him in the studio. What was it, working like with him?
It was amazing. I loved working with Gab. We wrote Same Place and Wonder together. And it was just like, obviously I was a fan of Japanese Wallpaper as well, like loved his music, everything he was putting out. So I think even me being in the same room with him was really cool, and like whatever came out of it would have been amazing anyway because he was involved. But we just worked so nicely together. Like Wonder, him and I wrote together by ourselves, and then Same Place, it was Gab, myself, and Ben Stewart from Slowly Slowly. So it was just a really cool way to meet new people, I guess, and also get some of Gab's musical genius in on some of my songs. So it was so much fun working with him.
How much for you, when you're in the process of making an album and making music, do you think about what the live performance will be like? Because listening to this album, it just seems like you're going to have so much fun on stage when you do perform it live. Going
into recording and writing Chrysalis, that was one of my biggest things. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned from Thick Skin and playing that album live so much. I really thought about, I guess, like the whole lighting, the whole show, like the interludes and stuff that we could do in between the songs. And I really wanted to make this album something super fun to play live, not just for me, like for my band, and also for the people listening to it, like the fans. And like I was also noticing like this kind of gap when I was playing Thick Skin live. I could see people like dancing and swaying in the crowd, but like I was like, I really want people to just be like jumping and like screaming and having so much fun. And that's what I really tried to, I guess, put into Chrysalis. And like also like before that, I was like on tour with Ballpark Music and bands like that, and like their lighting shows, crazy. Like lighting just makes the biggest difference to a show. And I'm like, I want to be able to see all these different strobe lights when I'm playing live. Like when this song like has a drop, we can have like a strobe there, and just things like that I was thinking about when we were writing the album. So the live aspect was a huge part of Chrysalis as well. And hopefully we get to do a show like that sometime really soon.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And, I guess listening to, your debut album and then against Chrysalis, your sophomore album, you do hear a pretty large change in sound and vibe behind the music. Do you think you'll ever have that kind of shift again, or do you think you kind of found your sound or your pocket in music?
Yeah, that's like the kind of process I'm going in like through at the moment, is trying to figure out where to go after Chrysalis. I think I've definitely found my kind of area that I want to stay in, but there's always room for growth and movement. You always evolve as a person and as an artist. And I definitely think I want to stay in this like pop, indie pop kind of synthy driven kind of area. But I'm so like open to experimenting and finding other sounds and other kind of vibes that I want. So who knows what the future will hold with that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm guessing you're going to get out on tour and some shows and stuff as we, fingers crossed, everything decides to stay on plan and open up. For this year, 2021, is it just a year of really working this album that you've released, or are we going to kind of start to see music filter out before the end of the year?
I think we're going to try and tour this album as much as we can with everything that's going on at the moment. At the moment, there's like a couple of shows that I'm playing here and there, but we are trying really hard to hopefully do a tour this year, hopefully before it's been a year since the album's out, but we'll see. But I'm definitely like in the process of starting to write album number 3 and seeing what that looks like, and yeah, I'm just really wanting to hone in on my songwriting and making myself a better writer, and hopefully we can get album number 3 out sometime in the next year or so.
Amazing. Well, Tia, you've always got a home right here on the DSP whenever you've got music out. Your project's amazing, and we'll keep supporting you whenever we can. So you just keep doing what you do best, creating amazing music.
Thank you so much.